Alright, I just recorded for like 20 minutes and then realized that the microphone was not plugged in, so we'll start again.
Don't move away from here. If you're restless, we'll have a Melbourne trip. 'Cause I've got a drink in hand and I'm listening to an alright band. I don't know what they're called, but no point in asking. No point in asking. Don't move away.
Okay, let's go. Today we have 12 packs of History Pack. If you think that's a lot of History Pack for $40, you're right. It's because we had a box, we bought it for $120, which is a bit cheaper than what probably you'd normally get. So we actually get 12 packs because History Pack is special that it has 36 packs instead of 24. So we just get extra. Just a quick reminder that a couple of videos we talked about legendaries. We decided that since we really want a Scalper and Cross Wrap, odds of pulling one specifically are just so low. If we open any legendary from History Pack, we are going to be able to swap it for a Scalper and Cross Wrap. It's just going to be super duper useful. It's going to be more important than, I don't know, some random Grasp of the Arcanite or something like that. I think also it would be fair if we say that's the same for Fables as well. We can swap a Fable too. Anyway, let's start opening. We're still also looking for the common arm pieces. We would just really like to be able to get nothing really in this one. We don't want the Sikkim shots. I don't think there's anything that they can do that Falcon Wing doesn't do better. But the arm piece, the common arm piece, would be really useful to have an extra piece of Arcane Barrier, because at the moment we only really are running one at this time. Skullhorn. I think the Crucible Majestic equipment for Ranger is the Perch Grapplers. I don't think we'd ever actually use that ability, but most Azaleas that run it often run it just to have the extra 2 block, because most of your stuff just doesn't block. Now, we would normally be running instead. Ridge Rider Shot might be okay. I think we just want more ways out. Opt would be nice. Probably would be running more Snapdragon Scalers instead of the leg piece, but you know, it's still fine. Another Ridge Rider Shot. Nothing really that useful yet. I mean, not that Ridge Rider Shot's not that useful, but it's like, it's not going to achieve much in the deck that we can't with, well, Scope and Cross Wrap, really. Last episode we got hit with the ALS. I don't think that running a Time Snap Potion is worth combating that, but man, I hate that card so much. We don't need another, oh, a Remorseless. Remorseless is real good. It's just a very powerful arrow, and it also says that defense reactions can't be played from Arsenal, so it could be real good against hyper defensive decks like Florian at the moment. Blue Ridge Rider, I don't think really. We got another Command and Conquer. I don't think I need this many Command and Conquers. They made Fork Lightning into a Majestic. If you didn't play it for the first 2 sets, you probably wouldn't even remember what a super rare really is. I kind of think they should bring it back. Redliner, we already had a Redliner, and I don't think we're running it. But I sort of think that there might be a place for a super rare slot now that over every good Majestic is like $60. Fraction Pulses, alright, not that much. Well, I'd say not that much after getting Command and Conquer and Remorseless. salvage shop. Maybe, possibly. Trip Traditch, okay. So the pulls for the week are honestly pretty modest. I know saying that while I hold a Command and Conquer kind of feels a bit disingenuous, but I don't really know if we want to be playing Command and Conquers. Perhaps we sideboard it. It would have been useful to have it in the deck for the Prism matchup that we ran into, just to be able to pop once or twice, kind of catch them off guard. This Remorseless, I think, is really good. I think we're going to need quite a few of those going forward, but I think they're going to be quite hard to get a hold of. Anyway, we'll make a real quick change to the deck. It's not going to change too much, I think. We'll just be finding spaces to slot in what we like, but we have to be really happy with what we're doing for ProQuest, because I think we possibly could be shooting for a good result, to be honest. We just need to be really confident in what we're playing. So here's the deck. For the equipment, there is no change. There's really not anything to change. We just aren't hitting the pieces that we actually need. Still looking for the common arms, still looking for the legendary heads. We would hopefully get a tunic. I think we're running more blues than you would typically run in an Azalea deck, but it's usually because you would have the tunic. So you could use the tunic to pay the death dealer, load, draw, and then just play out a whole bunch of zero cost. It would be pretty good, but until then, Hidden Agenda's still pretty fine, but we were just running a bit more blues than we'd probably like. For our attacks, the main change that we've made is that we've taken out the yellow Withering Shot. This blue Withering Shot's really bugging me, but when we go back into Outsiders, hopefully it won't be too hard to pull a common, though clearly we've seen that's not always the case. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with this. This is what I mean about more blues than we'll probably run. We'll probably take out Spire Sniping if we had the legendaries that we need, but for now it's okay to be in here. For our non-attacks, this is what we've got here. There's actually no real change here. I quite like this Rain Razors, though I feel funny just playing these as singles. I'm really not sure what we'd take out to fill the space. Probably these yellow Read the Glide Paths, but maybe they're more important to have more options to opt until we get Skullbone Crosswrap, because it's actually quite hard to do, and a lot of the time we find ourselves blind Azalea-ing, which is not bad in that it doesn't have any misses besides, I think, Point the Tip, which is still kind of a bit risky, but I think in many situations it's kind of just worth going for it. It won us a game against New last week, so the odds are typically better for doing it. Read the Glide Path means that we don't have to do that as often, and we can hit things that we definitely want to. And finally, we've got the sideboard. We've added in the Remorseless. We only have it in the sideboard for now, even though it's going to go in pretty regularly. It's good against very defensive decks in that it prevents them from playing defense reactions from Arsenal, so that can be your Guardians, that can be your Florian. And it's also really good against aggro decks in that it punishes them for paying lots and lots of action cards, so that would be Aurora or Syndra maybe. So it's going to come in more than it is out. However, we don't want to keep it in the main board just yet. There are going to be certain matches where it probably is not very effective, like say Prism perhaps. We also, from our first prize pack, got this red Release the Tension, which also will fill the same role. Remorseless probably better, but it's going to be easier to open Release the Tensions, though I've gone through a whole box of FS now and I only got it from prize packs, so you know, maybe not. We have taken out the Command and Conquer. Even though we pulled the second, that would have been kind of fun to play, two of them. We've decided to take them out. We think that they're just going to be misses if we Azalea into them. We're running lots of reds, so it's harder to pay for them. We want to just improve the consistency and power of Ranger cards and Ranger quality pieces so that we don't have to rely on something like Command and Conquer. Pushing through damage or making on-hit effects, we should be doing that ourselves anyway. We also got this red Fatigue Shot, so that's going to be helpful against Guardians, which I think now, especially with Mastery Pack coming out not that long, it's got a month or so, but it'll be really important then. So, for ProQuest, I don't want to get our hopes up too high, but last week at Armoury we did come third, and if we kept a rate similar to that, I think we actually would have the ability to get into top 8 and then kind of just see how we go from there. It would be a huge, huge milestone. We would get a ton of packs to work with, and Honestly, it would just show how far we have come with this deck to make a really good impression like that, have a really good splash. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because I don't want to disappoint if it doesn't happen, but honestly, I think that there's probably a not zero chance that we have a result that we're really proud of. So, let's go. The first game of the day is against Florian. I'm recording this after the Scepter ban, so we don't have to worry about this deck anymore, and honestly that is so fine with me now. Florian begins the game by playing out a truce, and we just look at our hand and decide that we can't force any damage or an on-hit, so instead of attacking, we just arsenal a card. The truce gains us both 3 life, and I don't think it's great to let them get higher when we have to fight so hard to make any mileage here, but I'd rather set up a better turn than just waste cards and let them block out. They even attack with 2 Command and Conquers, and instead we just decide to block out and draw. I think blocking the first one was right, but I don't know if the second one was. Instead we play a Release the Tension, load an arrow and opt with Talismanic Lens. We can see a Stone Rain which we Azalea into and give it an aim counter, firing for 7 Dominate. This will only take them back down to 40, but our follow-up turn is a Dominated 13. Because we fired a Drill Shot, we can put a -1 counter on the Barkskin and Millennium Tree. Barkskin creates an Embodiment of Earth token when it blocks, or 2 if Florian is online. So Florian can use it to make 1 card and an equipment block for 7. So if we can put a -1 counter on it, it means that they can only use it 1 time, and that's going to basically give us 7 points of value. Following up, we can play a Knock the Death Whistle. We'll search for a Sedation Shot to put on top of the deck. Basically, I think inertias are a really good thing to force a defensive deck to take, because it guarantees that they can't arsenal a defense reaction and that we can force more damage later. And I don't really think that there's actually that many good on-hit arrows that we can look for. They don't go wide enough for Red in the Ledger, they don't have a hero ability until halfway through the game, so there's no point sleep darting. Sedation Shot to keep them on a 4-card hand is just quietly actually one of our most powerful arrows here. But the main thing that we care about is forcing through damage. We'll blind Azalea into an Infecting Shot, which we can shoot for 5 Dominate. They can block this no problem, but we can Snapdragons and load a Stone Rain and play Lace with Bloodrot to shoot it for 7 Dominate. Even when we get Bullseye's Braces, I think that I want to stick to using Sharpshooters, just because it allows this 1-card combo whenever we need to go a little bit wide or force some damage or disruption. I continue though to have a love-hate relationship with Point the Tip. Here we'll use Hidden Agendas to flip up Bolton Shot, just so that we can put a Point the Tip on it. Point the Tip, remember, needs an arrow face up in Arsenal to put a counter on, otherwise you just can't play the card, and it requires giving up our only source of Arcane Barrier. We can't afford to pass or let cards rot on our hand today, so it feels bad, but we really did need to give it up here. They'll block out with their Face Purgatory, but our last card in hand is Rain Razors, which we can react and play out, so we don't have to discard it. I would rather have arsenaled it, but I think they played it assuming that our last card was an arrow, and we were planning on loading and shooting it, so overall this is a plus for us. Now though, we have no Arcane Barrier, so they can play out their first tree and scepter us for 4. We officially have 2 turns now to do 20 plus damage, so you know, it's not a great spot to be in, but they will play their second tree next turn and scepter us for 8. Not a great start, but this was the top deck a couple of weeks ago, so I'm not particularly hurt here. Our second game is against Prism, and we have less Murkmires now than when Enigma was part of the format, but it just means that we have to make them count more. We start our second turn with a Murkmire for 12. Prism's main defense comes from her ward, so her cards either don't block very well, or if she blocks with her heralds, she gives up her momentum for the next turn. They do take this damage and go down to 21. Unfortunately, our next turn is not a very good follow-up turn, basically being a handful of arrows. We'll use 2 to try and block a herald, but they'll buff it with an instant to +3. If they had it, they had it, so it's whatever, but it is going to let them flip over an angel. Prism won't flip more than 1 angel at a time unless they really have to, because otherwise 1 Murkmire Grapnel blows out their whole board. but we do need to get through this angel pretty quickly. Without Murkmire's, Dominates will have to do, and it can clear out angels pretty effectively, but it still just saves them a bunch of life. Prism naturally turns damage into 4 blocks, which is just off the charts value, so any turns we do play have to really count here. Like this turn here, when we can load a Stone Rain and play a Point the Tip to give it an aim counter, making it a dominated 16 with a Pox, Inertia, and a Banish on hit. It is powerful, but Prism next turn can use their Halo of Illumination to sneak out the Angel of Erudition, which lets them draw 2 cards just for attacking. The maths after this turn is that we need to either dominate an arrow for 18, which I don't think that we can realistically do with our deck right now, or do a dominated Murkmire Grapnel for 10, which is more realistic. We can shoot a Sedation Shot for 6, giving that go again, then loading a Grapnel. Unfortunately we had that one in hand, so we need to break our Talismanic Lens and opt 2 and just start digging. No luck, so instead we dominate an Infecting Shot for 6. They will come back with a Herald and buff it at 10, which will win the game for Prism. This isn't a great matchup for us, and we really needed to close these ones out in the first couple of turns, I think. Next up is Nu. We choose to break the lens as soon as we can to try and find a good arrow, which is a Frailty shot for 8. Frailty would be really good against Nu because it stops daggers, it weakens anything hiding in their arsenal, and if they play a Codex of Frailty, it weakens that new card that they put in their arsenal. Which is why it sucks that they chose to block this, because their turn was dagger, leave no witnesses, Codex into another leave no witnesses. Pretty rough stuff when you care so much about your arsenal. Well, at least we can knock and shoot off a dominated 8 Remorseless. Remorseless stops any defense reactions they might have hiding in their arsenal. They just took this and pitched a Pox on their turn, so we're allowed to set up for a good turn now. We'll use that turn to load and shoot a buffed Bolton Shot, which they do block, but they need to use their arsenal for it. Which is great for us because now we can use our arms to load Stone Rain with an aim counter and play a Lace that we drew, shooting it for 7 Dominators. This will hit, and because we can keep getting greedier, we'll use Snapdragons and use our Codex next to put a Withering Shot into an arsenal and fire it for 5. This is an 18 damage turn with 3 Frailties and Ponder. From Codex of Frailty though, they'll take back their Leave No Witnesses, and I really wish that we could have gotten that 4th Frailty on their side of the field, but they can still attack with it for 1. The 1 damage we don't care about, but we still have to block it to keep our arsenal. Annoying, but it's not the end of the world, and we do start picking up a life lead in the middle of the game. Nu here plays their Bonds of Agony, and we look at our hand and decide if we care more about playing anything on our turn or letting them rip a card for the rest of the game. I'd rather play a turn out, so they'll look at our hand and banish Barbed Undertow. We only have 2 of these, remember, so we're metagaming those assassins, those meta sheep assassins. Going into the end game though, we're a bit down on life, but they are in the 1 good arrow range. We can use hidden agendas to flip Stone Rain, playing Point the Tip and shooting it for 10 Dominate. It's close, but it's not quite close enough. They fire a Persuasive Prognosis back at us, and they buff it a frankly disgusting amount, and we do lose our 3rd game. Okay, this is looking a bit rough for us. I was really hoping we could turn this around by this point. Our last game of the night is against Aurora. If you think this video is dated, you're right, I'm lazy. We're going second, and I think we've lost every die roll at this event. We can knock to search for a stone range straight away. I know that red and ledger is better, like it's the silver bullet against a go wide deck like Aurora, but I don't want to pitch a second card. We already had to pitch a red to load an arrow. Instead we can fire this stone rain with a counter for dominated 13 and we get a ponder when it hits. Even down a card though, they will still come in for 12 damage and arsenal the banished card. We have a second knock, and this time we will search for red and ledger because we don't have to pitch twice. This is 11 dominated. They can still do 7 damage next turn off just one action, but it's still not a bad spot for us. We're well positioned for the next 2 turns. We can use our target totalizer and fire a stone rain with an aim counter for 7 and give it go again with snapdragons. I was really hoping to get some buffs in hand drawing off the target totalizer, but instead we have to use codex to recycle an arrow. We can shoot red and ledger again, which forces a block. They will snatch into another snatch though, so that's not quite good enough for us. We're not able to force out the last bit of damage though, and after a nasty burn up shock turn, Aurora is able to fuse an arcanic shockwave after we've broken our arcane barrier, taking us down to an 0-4. Well, 1-4. I actually got a bye in the 3rd round.
But you're in top 4, so don't worry.
Headshot's pretty good.
Hey!
Okay, need that.
Endless arrow. What a hit.
Need that.
What a hit.
Probably just need one, but...
Probably. You can have the bolts.
I see it. I'll put the bolt away.
That's a playset. But I'm not running it really.
Oh my.
Pretty good. Already had that. Okay, that's not bad.
That was.
Yeah, so that was ProQuest. Obviously, this is not the result that we were hoping for, or really the result that I think we're capable of, but sometimes you do just have a rough day. Like, nobody's ever not had an event that they went to and just, like, completely fell on their face, completely cratered. I think the only matchup that we were actually favoured into was Aurora, but we weren't able to control the board the way that we needed to. We didn't find the red and ledgers, we didn't find the sleep darts, the things that we really needed. This would have been a more competitive event than just a regular Armoury, so people are looking to bring their A game and play some really serious decks. And I wouldn't say that we went into anyone that wasn't playing something that either was or was really close to a meta strategy today. While we didn't win any games, I don't think any of them were bad games from us. There is still 2 months to the calling, and I think we need some serious improvements to make our mark there. So a bit more work to go, and a little bit of planning is needed because Azalea is now eligible to get 1.5 times living legend points. It's not very good for us. I don't love that change. Not just for the series, just I think it's a bit odd. So we need to do some planning, think about what we want to do. It's my opinion that I think that she will just very narrowly not pass the 1,000 point mark, but I'm not like saying that's not going to happen, you know? That's just my opinion. So either way, we need to think about what we're doing going forward, whether that is with Azalea or with our second backup plan, which we'll find out when we get there. Thank you for watching. But it still saves them a bunch of life. Oh fuck, I don't have the thing plugged in. Oops.